Welcome to the podcast of Women Who Make It Happen, Journeys to Success with Murielle. So thank you first and foremost for joining. Obviously for the wider audience, whoever's going to be watching this, it'll probably be good to do a couple of introductions from both sides. And then it'd be really interesting to go into your journey, what got you to where you are today, how the fund management industry has changed over the years, how technology may have played a factor in the usage and application of compliance throughout that, but also as you've gone through your career working with compliance people to then taking over more of a board role where you deal with the wider business, how your communication style has had to change and adapt depending on the people that you're speaking to, and then just deep diving into the challenges that you have faced in your career, but more importantly, the successes that you faced. And one key area I always like to do is I really like to understand the advice that you would give to people looking to get into this industry, which you would have known yourself. So I'll kick us off. So I'm Anna. I work within Interquest Group. So they're a global search consultancy business where I head up our European footprint based in the Netherlands, and that's with a strong focus on the risk, regulation and compliance related topic. Over to you.
Hello, Anna. Thank you for having me today in your podcast. So my name is Murielle, and I'm Generali Chief Compliance Officer in an insurance company in Luxembourg.
Hello. Amazing. And I suppose as well, just to understand how we got to where you are today, would you mind talking us through your journey of, where it all started, how you got into compliance and how your career evolved from there?
Yes, sure. I think that maybe we can start by the beginning.
Yes.
So I was born in Africa, in Cameroon, precisely. And I arrived in France when I was 15. So I spent time there in Paris, and I get my high school diploma there. And after that, I've been to a business school where I get my bachelor degree. So, and after my bachelor degree, because, I was not like, some younger people who want to be maybe doctor or pilot. But to be honest, at the beginning, I wanted to be surgeon, but I didn't like science. So
it's a very unique topic, I'll give you that.
Yes, I was not good in science. So that's why I gave up. And my other dream was to travel. I always like to travel. So that's why I did a business school, because at that time I had, they call that Erasmus, 1 year abroad. So that's why during my school, I spent 1 semester in New York and 1 semester in Madrid. And so when I finished, I went back to Paris. I get my bachelor in finance. And I remember that, I did my last internship in a bank in Paris, and I wanted to work after then. But my manager at that time, it was a woman, and she told me that, Murielle, you have to do a master's degree because it will be better for you to enter to the job market with a master's degree than with a bachelor. So that's why I moved to the university and I did a master's degree in banking and insurance.
Did you find it easier to access the market with a master's? Were you coming up against some objections with a bachelor's degree?
I think that, depending on the country, but I think that in France, you have some grim. For example, coming from depending of school or the diploma, if you have a bachelor, you don't have the same salary like a person with a master's degree, depending on the company, it's not universal. So that's why it will be better. And I was young, I was like, I think 22. So I had time to do one more diploma. So that's what I did. And so after this master's degree, I found easily my new job. It was a permanent contract in a hedge fund in Paris. And I remember, something that when I did something like 3 interviews to get the position, when I met the CEO at the time, after the interview, he told me that, Murielle, you know that you don't know anything. And I was like, whoa. And he told me that.
Oh my goodness. That's one way to put it, isn't it?
He told me that it is not important. Even if you don't know anything, that's normal because you are coming from school. You are going to learn. So it's okay. So finally I got the job, and I spent more than maybe 1.5 years there, because I was the subprime, because I think the subprime happened at that period. It was 2008. So I lost my job as a consequence of the subprimes at that period. And I lost my job in 2009. And after them, I went through some short-term contract and a temporary contract during that period. And until 2012, I stayed a couple of months without finding any job. And that's why I moved to Luxembourg.
Okay. Yes. And was that to do contract as well, or was that still within the permanent side? Because obviously contract is quite volatile because it's all depending on the need.
I did a spontaneous application, I had a friend who told me that, as I was working in the finance field, that Luxembourg was very interesting for my field. So I did a spontaneous application, and someone replied, and she invited me for an interview. And I remember that I came for the interview, it was a Monday morning, and I did the interview. It was quite well, and she told me that, so what do you need to start? And I told her that it was a woman. And I told her that I need a kindergarten for my son, because my son was 2 years old, and I need an apartment. And she told me, that's okay, you can find that very fast here. And
I love the spontaneity of it.
So after the interview, I go back to the train station to take my train, to go back in France. And she called me back and told me that to get the job. So you have to start. I think it was the end of November, and she told me that, can you start the 15th of December? And I told her that, please, I prefer to make the end of the year, with my family and the Christmas, and then come for the beginning of the year. And she told me, okay, that's fine. And I came back, I signed my contract, and I came, and she helped me, she's been with me. My boss at that time, she was the CEO, and she was the chief compliance officer, chief compliance and chief risk.
Oh, wow.
Yes, she's been with me. It was a small management company, because in Luxembourg, we have a lot small company. We were less than 10. So she's been with me to find a kindergarten, to find an apartment, and then I moved in 2013.
It takes a lot to actually do a move as well. So when someone's willing to help you when you've actually already taken the role, says quite a lot, because it's a lot of family integration rather than just individual as well.
Yes, it was quite hard. I think that was my one of my big challenge, to integrate, because I don't know if you know Paris, but coming from Paris, Paris is a big city with a lot of things to do. And I have my family, my friend there, and I arrived in Luxembourg alone, because I didn't know nobody here except one of an unknown colleague that I knew from Paris. And arriving there, it was cold, a lot of snow at that time. A new job, because I was working in middle office management company. I used to work in management company in France, but it was not the same organization. So it was quite difficult, but it was a great learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, with anything like that, it's always a huge learning experience. And obviously, from relocating yourself when you were 15, you feel the impacts intensively. But when you're an adult and you've got such an established life in Paris by that point, actually moving over to do it all again with a country which is very different to France, I would say personally, can be quite intense. And obviously with Luxembourg being as alternative investment fund orientated as it was probably quite easy to transfer a skill set, but it doesn't mean it's easy to actually transfer a personal life at the same time. And I suppose looking at it from the fund side of it, as we referenced earlier, with the fund area, have you seen quite a lot of that change throughout the years that you've been involved in it? And if so, what would you say were the biggest changes?
Well, when I was in Paris, for example, I was working for an hedge fund, but it was in the middle office, but it was different organization, I remember that one of the big things when I arrived in Paris, I used to receive, for example, it was a small company, so I used to do different things, I was doing middle office, I was doing investment restriction, I was doing a bit accounting, So
A
that
little
was
bit of everything.
yes. And I remember that the first time I had to read a prospectus because and also operating memorandum because I remember that one time the fund manager at that time he sent some order to send to the custodian, and I was like, is it for me? I don't understand. And my colleague told me that you have to check the prospectus, and I didn't even know how to do that. So I have to learn by myself because in some small company you don't have a training program than in the big institution.
Mm.
So I did that, and also at that time they recruit also a risk manager who had a big impact on my career because he helped me a lot, to learn, to challenge, to value myself. So yes, that's it. So it was yes, much more that how do we say, fund industry, how to place order, the control to perform, to pray, because and it was manual because in France we used to have some automation, yes,
Yeah.
with Excel files. And when I arrived in Luxembourg at that time, yes, it was everything manual. Yes, all the controlling.
I know when you go through the automation process, it can be so mind blowing as to how simplified it could have been, but it's also changing people's mindsets at the same time to not manually check everything and actually have a belief in the technology. How did you find the adaptation of that from the fund side? Because they notoriously were a very manual area rather than what we see the fintechs or the payments of today.
Well, I've never worked for a fintech, so
yeah.
But as I say, for example, at that time, when I've been in Paris, for example, with manager who did the macro, so I just have to push some button, that made all the calculation, and I can see the bridge. And when I arrive in Luxembourg, I have to do everything by myself, to do everything manual because I remember that, and I didn't know about some tools that tool can exist. I remember that I was discussing with her friend sometime, and I was explaining her what I used to work, and she told me that you don't have a tool, and I said no, and she told me that come on, how do you work without a tool? And I say I have to check everything manually, and I think that it's for the beginning, it's interesting. I think that today with more than 10 years experience, I will not work without a tool. Come on, we are in 2024, no. And this also made some find some operational issue because at that time it was a small management company, so we didn't have a lot of fund. We had like maybe 4 or 5 funds, so we can do everything manually because in big fund you have maybe 20 line, so it's okay. But if you have a fund with 100 or 1,000 of line, you can do everything manually.
No. I suppose it depends on the kind of scale factor behind where the funds are actually looking to go and how many funds you're actually looking to obtain, but also clients that you're looking to work with. And I think that's where the digitalisation was more imposed on the fund industry rather than welcomed, I would say.
I'm not sure to have understand your question, sorry.
Yeah, it was more just around how the technology was kind of brought into the fund side, and then it feels like it was a little bit more opposed just due to the growth of the businesses rather than something which was sort of welcomed.
Okay. I think that I'm not sure if it is the right answer, but regarding the automation.
There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a conversation around the application.
Yes, but regarding the automation, in the front end, just depending on which side you're working, for the middle office side, for sure, it's kind of automation of the control.
Yeah.
But in compliance side, it would be, for example, for everything, yes, for the, the entry into relationship, because, for example, at the beginning, you have some KYC document that the client has to fill, and then you have to maybe report them in the tool.
Yeah.
And for example, now with the AI is very interesting because you have some AI where you can just put your documentation and then they make the extract and then they analyze. It's quite interesting. I don't use that for the moment. This is the brain, but I don't use that. But I think that automation is good, but it brings some other issue because you have the issue of IT security, because it's complicated to that both of them coexist. Because when you say automation or artificial intelligence, you talk about cloud. And in Luxembourg, we have the professional secrecy, the article, I'm talking about insurance and company in France. We are Article 300 of the insurance law. So you can share client information, you can store them also, the question of personal data. You can share some information in the cloud. So that's bring other issue. So, and other people say that, technology will replace human. In my side, I don't think so.
No. I mean, we was looking recently at kind of how automation and human integration are going to interact, because it's never going to completely take it away. And I think that's why, and it touches on your point there around other complications that come forward, which is why I think that GDPR was so hardly imposed, and cybersecurity and IT security and the threats behind it. And then also really looking at the penetration as to how can fraudsters gain access, how can you identify fraudsters, which is where the more analytics came from, but it still kept it as quite a manualized process as well. I don't know if you saw the same.
Yes, but I think yes, and I think that the problem will be the human who will not use technology, But if you use technology, you have to coexist, because the technology is there to improve our way to work, It helps us to be more efficient. So that's why I think, that's why in my day-to-day, yes, technology helped me a lot. So that's why.
And I suppose obviously where you include the whistleblowing side into your area, how do you kind of work with that and utilize it, and also follow when is best to kind of blow it?
As a chief compliance officer, I'm the contact person for the whistleblowing area question. So in Luxembourg, we have, I think it was 2023, if I'm not wrong, the new law regarding whistleblowing. And we have recently the whistleblower day, I think it was in June or July, I don't remember. So conforming to the law, we have a internal policy, you have a group policy, we have also internal policy, and we also have put in place, the ethic line, when you want to report some whistleblower question. So you can report it at company level to me, or you can go to the group level, And for example, if you don't have satisfaction, you can also go up to the regulator to report any issue. So it's very important for me as a chief compliance officer, and also it's very important for the group, for whom I'm working to. And we're making a lot of communication about this topic.
And also you mentioned that obviously it's really important for the board, but the board usually obtains quite a varied skill set of technology, of product, of commercial. How do you gain people's buy-in for compliance across the board?
I think that now compliance is important for everybody, because with the place of the regulator, because the regulator comes more and more demanding, They come with reporting.
The CSSF are definitely ruthless.
Yes, but currently, my regulator is the CAA for insurance sector.
Yeah.
But I've been dealing with CSSF during many years, and with a lot of inspection, with the fines sometimes. So even if, at the past, they used to say that compliance killed the business. But now they understand that now, because nobody wants to have a fine. And now, the board sometimes this was for the independent director who were responsible until their own personal belonging. So nobody wants to have an issue with the regulator. So when I have to present to the board, I used to go to them maybe quarterly during the board of director. I present the things, and they are quite cooperative. Because they understand that at the end of the day, it is for the company.
So I think it's just around explaining it, isn't it? It's like the benefit, because they are, and you were so right, compliance was seen as a no function, for a
Yes.
really long time. And I think
Yes.
COVID actually changed people's mindsets of that.
Yeah, because I remember that, when I was working in management company, investment restriction, we had one of fund manager, when I used to report to them, sometimes some breachings and told that go and breach, you have to do this, you have to respect, the requirements. You tell me that, no, you are not right, you are wrong, Murielle, this is a bullshit, you are annoying me. And at the end of the day, every time when I go to there, I used to take the article of the law as a reference and told her that that's what the law said. I'm just applying the law. And if you're not happy, please go to the CSSF, go to the CIA and tell them that please change the law. I'm not the one who is writing this law.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just the one being able to enforce it to keep them from getting a fine. And I think that's where the sort of communication style changes.
Yes.
Because if you're having a conversation like that with, say, example, at the beginning of your career with your compliance manager, or if you're having a conversation like that with your head of compliance, they understand the context and they also understand the content and also what needs to be done. I suppose the question here is, how would you alter your communication styles now you're kind of operating with more senior to exec business level people?
Yes, I think that compliance is not against the business, because at the end of the day, for myself, I'm not working for the regulator.
No.
I work for a private company, I've always worked for a private company. So I have no interest. I have interest that we make business, but
Yeah.
you have to respect the law. The communication was more since the beginning with the sales, because
Yeah.
the managers, the CEO or the chief compliance, they used to know that the impact. But because the law changed a lot, I remember that when I was working in management company at the beginning, when I arrived, I told to one fund manager, that you have to request this document to your client. And he was like, no way, Murielle, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that because they are fund managers since like 30 years. And 20 years ago, when you wanted to open an account, you just go with your ID card and it was okay, it was done. But now, when they heard that every time that this company had a fines, this company, has a breach, and they don't want to be in the newspaper, for this reason. So
let's talk about reputational damage, and I think people are starting to see that compliance actually covers the reputational side of it as well as more like operational effectiveness.
Exactly, you have a huge issue in terms of reputation, so nobody wants to be in this situation, so they used to cooperate. But I used to explain, sometimes I told them that when you want to onboard a new client, do not hesitate, we are there to explain, so come to us, we can explain the things. So it is a cooperation, yes. When you explain the things, now they understand. And moreover, when I show them the law, it's more understandable.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I suppose from having pivoted from, France to Belgium, contract to permanent, and also via various different sort of levels, what would you say was the biggest, obviously you touched across one earlier on in the conversation, but what would you say was the biggest challenge points that you had throughout your career, which sort of stands out, and what drove you to keep going?
I think that first it was to move from Paris to here, because I remember that a lot of people told me that, oh wow, you're very strong, to move from one country to another one as a single mom, with a little boy, because my boy was 2 years old. But I was unemployed, So when you are unemployed, you have no issue because you cannot project yourself. Exactly. So when I came to Luxembourg, it was something new. It was expectation. Luxembourg allowed me to dream, to like plan, my life differently. And when you arrive, yes, okay, it's like, you get the job. But once you get the job, you have to be maintaining the position. You have to finally manage the notice period. And then when you manage to do your job properly, maybe you want to grow in the company. And sometimes it's not possible, sometimes you have some expectation that you cannot manage. So that's why sometimes when it doesn't work in somewhere, you have to move. So I can say that so the challenge would be to have moved to here, you know, and to manage to claim the ranks, you know, to move up to the ladder, up to the responsibility that I'm able to manage today.
And I suppose looking at it not just professionally, but from a personal stand, how long did it take for you to fully kind of settle into that new way of living?
I'm someone, you know, I'm not like a party woman, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not, no, my passion is to travel, you know. So it was the hardest things was like Luxembourg at that time was like a village, you know, when everything, the shop closed at 6 p.m. You know, you don't have some market like in Paris that just down in my street I have everything. So that was hard. But now, you know, with the responsibility, I'm working a lot. So when I come back home, you know, I take off my son, you know, and I just go on my sofa and I have to plan for the next day or for my holidays.
Where's your next holiday plan to now?
I don't know.
Is that what it's going to be consistent of for the next few days, trying to plan the next one?
I've been in July, so to wait until to have the next one. I don't know. I will see.
Yes, no, it sounds good. And I suppose reflecting on that as well, what would you say the success factors were in your career?
When the success factor, I think that yes, it was a different step because when I arrived, for example, when I began, you know, at the beginning, even if it was in Paris or here, I was in the middle office. You know, middle office is kind of entry-level position.
Yeah.
Yes, and now I'm the number one in compliance. You know, in my company.
Because that's a big achievement.
Yes, exactly. So I'm kind of proud of me. But it was
good.
And even now.
Do you know what? I don't think people say that enough. It's just to say, you know what, I'm really proud of myself. Look where I was and look where I've become. And I think that's actually a really, really big point to highlight there.
Yes, that's true. Because you know, I used to say that you have to behave on yourself, believe on yourself, you know, and nobody will value you more than yourself. So everybody has to know, and moreover, us as a woman. So because and now, for example, I'm participating, you know, this is an initiative launched in Luxembourg by the Ministry of Finance. We call that, this is a charter, it's Women in Finance, you know. That was launched last year, and to promote, you know, the gender equality in finance and the place of women. And I have the chance to participate to one of the task force launched in the.
Oh, wow.
Yes, exactly, relating to the event communication and talent, because they have seen that, you know, in the entry-level position, when you are in a company, you have half women and men, and more you go up, and less women. Yes, exactly.
It's true. They say statistically, it's around mid-management level. It just goes like this.
Yes.
So people never really raise across that bar, and that's kind of what this podcast is all about. It's highlighting, you know, there are female talent in leadership positions. It's not always easy to get there, but these are the journeys. This is how you can focus on it. This is how you can do it. And just emphasizing that, although there shouldn't be, and we shouldn't need to, statistically, it's there. It happens. And kind of how can we mitigate that, and what's the causes of it?
Yeah, this is a fact, exactly. And I remember that, you know, I'm participating to this task force, and the first meeting is about to communication, event, and talent. And in the group, there is a man and a woman, and we were discussing. And one man, he said something very interesting that, for example, you know, when you want to apply for a position in LinkedIn, for example, LinkedIn asks you about your skill, the corresponding skill, you know, for example, over 10. And the man said that, you know, when he has like one skill, over the 10, he doesn't care, you know, he just applied. But for example, his woman, she need to have the 10 skill to apply, you know. So women and men do not think they're the same.
Yeah.
So why I think that women are more emotional. So
yes.
Yes, that's why sometimes we say that we have to organize some mentorship, because you have a lot of women, they have the skills, but they need someone to push them out, to go through their green.
It's just being, I can learn this. I don't need to have the 100% tick box, like you said, of when you apply for jobs and it's, men will do 50% of a skill set, where a woman look for everything that they can do. Because I think it's just a change in mentality of, I can't do this, but I'm taking a new job because I want to learn. And I don't know this, but I want to build myself and I want to grow. And I think that's where it comes from, a slight shift in how people look at it from a career trajectory.
Yes, because I remember that, when my first job in Luxembourg, and when I wanted to move to another job. And sometimes I have a friend, at that time, and I have my resume, and I told her that, please check my resume and give me some advices.
Yeah.
And she told me that it's okay. She gave me some advices. And sometimes when she saw some posts, some jobs, she told me that, Murielle, you have to apply. And I was like, no, I'm not able. I can't do that. This is this is an important position comparing to my skills. And she told me that, no, Murielle, you can't do this. You have to apply. And I remember that one time I applied and had an interview, and she told me that, you have to go, you have to try. And sometimes
that's it. If you don't try, you never know.
Exact. Women need a person to boost them.
Just a slight little nudge, and then people.
Exactly.
You do need someone to give you that little push sometimes. You say, from like an emotional perspective, like, you can do this. You don't need to kind of hold yourself back. But I suppose just kind of looking to kind of wind this down and then sort of wrap this up. Based on kind of what you've done throughout your career, what's one thing you would wish you would have known or have been told when you first started your career, which you think will be beneficial for others?
I think that to be less emotional.
Yeah.
Because, that's true. Because, I remember that every time, at the beginning of my career, when I was facing some situation, I was like, they don't like me. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. Maybe because I'm a Black, So I used to feel that. And I remember that one of my friends, I remember some situation that I was angry about one situation of one of my previous manager. I was very angry. And I told one of my friends, it was my colleague at that time, that I'm not happy. I was crying, and he was a man. And he told me that, maybe I have two options. One option is to continue crying. And the other option is to go to face him and tell him that this is not fair. And you have to put the... And I was like, no, come on, I told him that he is my manager. He said that I'm not happy, I'm not good. He told me that, okay, it is your manager, it is not your boyfriend. So he will not come to you that, oh, Murielle, poor Murielle, how is it? You have to go. And I've been to the manager at that time to tell him that, there is a situation that is not fair, so please, can you correct? The person did not correct at that time, but it was important for me to face the situation because I didn't have this attitude, to face a problem. I used to, when there is a situation, just to go back.
I think that's really important, though, just to be able to, and it is just taking the emotion out of it, of if you speak up in a constructive way, it's a lot more, you'll gain a lot more from it than if you just go on this emotional rampage and you're angry, you're upset, you're crying. No one's going to take it seriously, or to kind of thought process as to how they look to move forward. So I think it's good just to kind of step back and take a breather, put your emotion aside, think about the outcome that you want and construct it in a completely different manner.
Yes, it's, for example, when sometimes you want to negotiate your career, your salary. Right? My colleague was told me that you cannot go to negotiate your salary and say that, okay, my colleague have, I don't know, this is an example, I have 50, my colleague have 60. We are doing the same thing, so I need 60, And he told me that, no, you cannot go like this, You have to take advantage, you have to take example, to show that for your achievement, why you deserve, this salary. So this is a lot of tips that I think that a lot of persons do not have.
Yeah, and it's a really important skill set to have. It's a really, really simple one, and one which benefits us all most, but it's just not one that we use a lot.
Say it again, please.
It's one that we could all benefit from, and one that we all have, but just one that we kind of cower away from using a lot. is just negotiation of what you've done and a belief in what you've done. And it kind of loops back to being proud of what you've done, to be able to ask for what you need.
Yes, that's true. But, it's like, this is like life, it's not black or white.
Yeah.
You can go to negotiate and show all your achievement, objective, and etc. And you don't get what you need, But that's how it works. So if you think that it's like the bottle of water, I used to say that when you go to the supermarket, the bottle of water is €1. But when you go, for example, to the discotheque, is €50. So if you do everything and you are not valued, have to go.
Yeah. I think that's a really good thing to highlight and definitely one to focus on as well. And look, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. It's been really, really interesting to have you as part of it. But I suppose if there's one last thing that you could say or want to say, what would that be?
Yes, I think that women have to trust them, and they have to dare. We need to be bold,
Dare to try.
Yes, we have to try the things. And when it's like in personal life, when you are in some situation or where you are in the company that you are doing everything and you are not recognized at your real value, you have to go, We are lucky that even in Luxembourg or in Europe in general, the job market is quite dynamic. So you have to try that for sure, but don't hesitate to start again. Life is short. So
make the most of it.
Yeah.
Well, look, as I say, thank you so much again for joining the podcast. It's been really, really interesting, intriguing and insightful to hear about your career, your challenges, your successes, but more importantly, kind of how you hold yourself up against them and the advice that you give, I think is really, really beneficial. So thanks again.
Thanks to you. And I forgot something. You have to, younger generation, not only younger, and me also, you have to train,
Yes,
the key.
Consistent learning.
Consistent learning, exactly. I forgot.
Really underrated. Learning skills all the way through your career is integral to growth.
Exactly. It's very important and necessary.
It is. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you.